Are we ready? Recording in progress. All right. Okay. I like to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Councilmember Prompton. Emmeline Baker. Here. Farrell. Here. Kathy.
Here.
Keller.
Aye.
Miller.
Here.
Mayor Bell.
I'm also here.
Yeah, he was muted.
Oh, okay.
All right, any additions or amendments to the agenda? None, so, I move to adoption of the consent agenda.
Move to adopt the consent agenda, including the approval of the minutes from October 23rd, 2023 council meeting. Approval of the minutes of November 15th, 2023 joint city council and port commission meeting, and ratification of the bills in the amount of $310,587.09.
I'd like to pitch, I need to, well, I guess I need to ask, I'm not too exactly sure, I misspoke last meeting in reference to Mr. Johnson, and I don't know if I can clarify, or if the record needs to stay the record, and my error needs to be that, I don't know what I'm supposed to do.
State what you would.
Okay,
where
so
the error is.
on page 4, I don't know, the only time I spoke, I would like it to say, council member Keller said his concern is an ethics investigation into Mr. Johnson and as a lobbyist for Oregon business and industry.
That's all, yeah.
Okay.
And since we captured it now, it will go into the minutes for.
Great. Okay, thank you.
Sorry about that.
No worries. Any other?
So do we say that that was a friendly amendment to that motion?
Yes, we don't even need to say that, but
Okay,
yeah. if you want to.
then I second it with the changes.
Okay. Discussion?
I just want to clarify, we're not amending the minutes, though.
No, we are
The
clarifying.
motion on the floor was to approve the minutes from the meeting, we just were correcting the statement by putting that on the record for today's meeting.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
Are you, is it the 11/27 minutes or the October 23rd minutes?
October 20.
It would have been November 27th.
Oh, I just read what was on here, so is it November 27th, not November 15th?
Yes.
No, the October 23rd, are you doing the October 23rd ones or?
Oh, no, they're listed wrong on the agenda. Sorry.
November,
There we go.
right over the section. Thank
So
you.
apologies there.
So,
Restate
Pete,
that.
restate that, please.
So that should be, what was our last, today's the 11th?
November 27th.
November 27th.
November 27th.
There we go.
All right, I move
There we go. Let's do
to
it.
adopt the consent agenda, including the approval of the minutes from November 27th, 2023 council meeting, approval of the minutes from November 15th, 2023 joint city council and port commission meeting, and ratification of bills in the amount of $310,587.09.
I second that.
Okay, discussion. All right, let's do a vote.
Councilmember Compton,
Aye.
Emmeline Baker,
Aye.
Farrell. Aye. Kathy,
All right,
Keller,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Mayor Bell.
Aye. All right, yeah. Okay. Parents and interested citizens, we have Miss Tiffany Pruitt, Mrs.
Thank you for letting us speak out of turn. It just looked very odd. Why are we 2 months?
No problem.
Not in minutes, so.
No, that's good.
Okay. Okay. So, I have a couple things I want to address. I requested on November 13th, the attorney's his recommendation, his summation about why ordinance 1487 was legal, and I was denied, which is strange because I was the citizen who asked if resolution 1487 was legal because of it being passed with the first reading of the ordinance 57. I was told that it was client privilege information per ORS 192.502, subsection 9. This is not a medical record, personal information, or anything that's truly protected information. According to the LOC municipal handbook, it says the city attorney, regardless of the employment arrangement, may be called upon to attend all city council meetings, receive and respond to requests for advice from city council and staff, draft and review ordinances and resolutions, prepare and review contracts, and represent the city in litigation. So, if it was the attorney's job to review ordinance 457 and resolution 1487, and it had to be called out by a citizen, and then that citizen requests the attorney's document that was not part of the public access to the council packet, and the attorney claims client attorney privilege because of that request, kind of smells like a cover-up of an attorney that has lost his edge. This request was in the public's interest to understand how a resolution can be passed and legal with only one reading of the ordinance that puts it in place. The citizens are the ones who pay the attorney's contract and therefore have an interest in the attorney's reasonings on such things. And I respectfully request that the council request that the attorney reconsider his determination before more serious inquiries are requested. The second thing I would like to have the council consider is being careful with entering in any agreements or especially monetary agreements with the port. The port has promised a few things in the past, like we had something on the budget for several years that never was rectified and just finally never rectified, it just got written off. The port never paid what they said they were gonna pay, and we just held it on the budget for a few years before it just finally got written off. And recently you guys just had a meeting where they again said that they weren't going to do what they said that they were going to commit to. So, you know, especially with them being almost 3 years behind on their financials, because per ORS 198.345, the state can request dissolution of districts who fail to file finance statements for 3 consecutive years. Many here on council were concerned by a business who wanted to come to town because they felt they were shady. Well, I say a business that doesn't have the financials in order for almost 3 years themselves could be considered shady, and they continue to make commitments that they don't keep. So I just caution you to please consider that in the future. Thank you.
I don't have any others signed up.
I did receive one via email.
Okay.
Let's see, this is from Heather Weaver. Dear Cascade City Council, I'm writing to express the importance and potential benefits of securing a quiet zone designation in relation to train horns for our town of Cascade Locks. Implementing such a designation would not only enhance the overall quality of life for our residents, but also contribute to the town's economic and social well-being. I'd like to request the council and commission jointly pursue a quiet zone designation so that work and expense can be shared. Obtaining this designation would be a joint effort between the port and the city, as both would share the benefits. While implementing a quiet zone may involve initial expenses, the long-term gain in terms of improved resident satisfaction, economic growth, and enhanced community appeal justify this investment. I believe that obtaining such a designation would be a strategic move for our town's future prosperity. Frequent loud train whistles day and night affect both resident and visitor quality of life, as Cascade Locks attempts to attract new and keep existing residents, businesses, and tourists. The effect of the train whistle should be seriously considered. We cannot leave this on the back burner any longer. I encourage the city council and port commissioners to step up as community leaders and take on the challenge of successfully implementing a quiet zone, recruit assistance from community members and local businesses if needed, as well as we will all benefit from the positive change. A quieter and more serene town attracts new residents and businesses, contributing to property value appreciation and increased local commerce. Additionally, the improved quality of life may encourage tourism, as visitors are likely to be drawn to a town that prioritizes a peaceful atmosphere. The city of Stevenson would be a great resource for questions and guidance to stay successfully implemented a quiet zone. Sincerely, Heather Weaver.
Thank you. Any other comments or emails, anything?
Anybody online? And not seeing any interest,
Public hearings
no public hearing.
and the action items, approval of lobbyist and quote. Administrator Bennett.
Okay. At the November 27th, 2023 council meeting, Council Director Administrator Bennett to obtain quotes for lobbying services during the 2024 legislative short session to secure funding for the McCord Creek electrical line relocation. Below is a list of firms I contacted. The list was provided by Jim McCauley, Legislative Director for the League of Oregon Cities. Since this was published, there are some updates. Both Thorn Run Partners and CFM Advocates did respond. Their quote is been added to the packet. And Proxy did respond, but they declined to provide a quote. Let's see here. At the time of publishing this, without having full look at who would provide quotes, I wasn't able to provide a good recommendation. I've also reached out to Helbridge's staff to gauge their level of support and funding, and still working with them to see how that moves forward.
That's where we're at.
Yeah, I did not have time to do any kind of background check, reference checks with these as well, so. This is really just taking them on their face value for the quote.
I would like to propose. Let me see. I motion to approve the quote from Ted Melio of Melio Capital Consulting in the amount of $3,000 to provide lobbying services during the 2024 legislative session.
Can I clarify, that's $3,000 per month.
Right,
Yes.
oh, thank you,
Yeah.
$3,000 per
I
month.
should have added that in the recommended motion.
I'll start again. A motion to approve the quote from Ted Melio of Melio Capital Consulting in the amount of $3,000 per month to provide the lobbying services during the 2024 legislative session.
It's 3 months.
Yes, it starts February like 8th-ish and goes through about the end of March. But it would start, if council approves, I would reach out to them and start the contract tomorrow to start the lobbying. So we look at probably about 3.5 months, so.
We can't discuss it till we.
So there ain't a motion.
Correct.
Right.
So is there a second? Okay. Hearing with no second. And. Councilor Miller?
I would like to move that we accept the proposal from Mark Johnson. And for the lobbyist for this project.
I'll second it. Okay, discussion? Councilmember Pete.
I think one of the best statements we got was from CFM Advocates. In their proposal, they wrote. In an ideal world, the city would bring the ask during the 2025 long legislative session when biennial agency budgets are crafted, and asks such as these are often funded. Additionally, there will likely be intense discussion around a large transportation package during the 2025 session, giving the city another avenue to pursue funding. This year in particular, legislators are looking to the future in anticipation of likely revenue declines and are looking to hold funds back for future budget deficits. As I stated at our last council meeting, my priority is to find someone that's going to be able to help us be successful in lobbying to secure the $1 million in funds to offset the cost of relocating these utilities. We've already secured a loan, therefore the pressure is off for the immediate need to, I guess, secure the funding. And I think that we would be better served by waiting until the 2025 legislative session.
I do want to clarify.
2025, during the 2025 session, I'm saying wait
Oh,
don't do it during the short session, wait till 2025 when they're working on the biennial budget. So the CFM says that, there'll be, also discussions around a large transportation, package during the 2025 session.
yeah.
I don't want to clarify, we haven't secured the loan yet, council approved applying for the debt financing, I've been told by ODOT, there's no reason it wouldn't do it, but it hasn't been finalized yet.
Thanks.
it is my understanding that sometimes money we might get cannot be used to pay back a loan. And therefore, waiting is not my first choice, because our loan is like a HELOC, quote unquote, in that we'll take it out as we need it. I did extensive research on Lobbyist. I called the folks I know in Salem who have worked as lobbyists or legislators since I was a part of the OEA, Oregon Education Association union, and state legislator work for many years, and got some recommendations. And one of those recommendations, Thorn, which is very expensive and at our reach. Another was Tess Milio. And so I, in fact, two folks recommended Tess. The price is similar to Mark's Johnson's. And I called to be sure that $3,000 a month did not also have extra travel expenses, which I see that Mark Johnson has, and spoke to Tess, who assured me, no, she would not charge extra travel expenses. She said she is in Salem every day for the legislative session because she's doing work elsewhere. She's very familiar with Cascade Locks, has received funding for a small town of Turner, Oregon, for in the past and was successful. Has worked with ODOT, and I just, based on the recommendations that I've heard out of the folks I know in Salem, and that the price, we have, like you said, some other good quotes, but CFM was 7,000. I think the last one we saw, how much was that? It's like 14 or 45. That this, and like Mark Johnson, Tess says, we need to get moving on this right away. And I think that is my feeling, get moving on it right away. This proposed retainer, while working on this, it is my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, that the off-ramp, or considering that we're talking about things with ODOT and 84, was a discussion that Administrator Bennett brought up. While you're doing all this work anyway, if we don't get the money, can we talk about other things? Am I correct in saying that?
Doing work on top of just this one specific project?
Well, yes, I said something, I don't understand this. I will consider an off-ramp, should it become clear that the project will not get funded. I said, what does that mean? Where'd that come from? She said, in discussion with Administrator Bennett.
Yeah, so
Yes,
if it becomes clear, 2 weeks in the session, there is no appetite for the legislator to give us funds, they will cease all and we'll stop paying them. That's what you mean by off.
okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure we understood what that meant.
Yeah.
And I thought it also a good sign that when I put out some calls, I called one of the references on her page and they were very supportive, of course, as any would be, that this is the one that got back with me. So that's why I still am promoting. I think we do need a lobbyist. And I think if we're gonna spend approximately $3,000 a month, that I would choose Tess.
Councilmember.
Mark Johnson. Mark has secured $2.4 million in lottery bond funds from the state legislature for infrastructure for the new building construction for the industrial park. He secured $1.3 million in ARPA funds through Senator Thompson for Harvey Road parking lot, storm and sewer infrastructure for port properties and upgrades to the stern wheeler. $149,000 grant from Morgan Parks to fund phase 1 of the new Cascade Locks trail system. $160,000 grant to pay for the new restrooms at the Harvey Street parking lot from Travel Oregon. $125,000 for improvements to the Easy Climb Trail and Herman Creek Cove parking area. He has proven that he can get the job done and that he can bring money to Cascade Locks. He is very familiar with Cascade Locks. He is the most qualified one for our area. And as far as the diversionary tactics that were done last meeting, in quoting that Mark had a ethics complaint investigation. Mr. Keller, do you know who filed that ethics complaint against him?
According to an email that I received from Mr. Johnson, he said he filed it himself. And I can give you the case number,
Yeah.
and I can say that if you are being investigated by Oregon Government Ethics Commission, you're being investigated.
Yeah, so.
And it happened twice. He did the same exact violation twice. 2018-19 fiscal year and 2020-21 fiscal year, if you read the complaint. And so why would somebody do the exact same thing twice in the ethics violation?
Okay, I want to remind council, let Mr. Councilmember Miller talk and then then raise your hand.
I did ask him.
I know, but let's raise your
Okay,
hand.
I'll go to the complaint was that Mark filed against himself. Was that when he filed as a lobbyist with the state, you have to file an EFS statement, which he did. The port failed to file their portion of it. Their staff failed. He didn't know about it until later. Once that happened, then he got it corrected. And then the port failed evidently again. There has only been one complaint. And that's what the ethics, if you look at on the ethics line, there's only one complaint. The resolution of it was a letter of education, which means that's all the action they took. There was no fine or anything. They got the paperwork straightened out. They got the port straightened out on what they were to do. As far as it would be like when we file our yearly statements, our staff not filing their portion of it, which would never happen. We know that. But so it was really, the ethics complaint was really nothing, you know. And as far as Councilmember Emmeline Baker's statement, she said she didn't know. So if you put a caveat on it right at the beginning, which right there, it should have just been left alone and not even spoken about, because she insinuated that because the port lost the $6 million, that Mark wasn't doing his job and keeping it secure. There was an article written on Lyman Week at June 20th that explained what happened. Senator Bonham, who represents our area, skipped some of the walkout in the state legislature, did not appear. So, and then Senator Knott of Bennett stepped in and got some of the senators to come back so they could get something done. Senator Bonham was not one of them. The $6 million all of a sudden went from Cascade Locks, Bridge of the Gods, to Bennett, to Senator Knott, for a pedestrian bicycle bridge that is in conceptual design right now. It is not even been completely engineered at work. The work for the Bridge of the Gods is far more along. So what I see here was a character assassination on Mark Johnson. You know, instead, here's the work he did, securing all this money for this area. So I believe Mark Johnson is the one, and I think this council needs to be sure and of what sort of information they're bringing to this council, not conjecture or rumor mongering. So that's all I got today.
Councilman Member Baker. I want to say a couple of things that, it is my understanding that lobbyists can be in the room, and Tess Milio said she is going to be in legislature every day. And therefore, when I said, not sure how much a lobbyist can do, I do feel, it is not conjecture, it's my opinion, that a lobbyist could be there to say, wait a minute, don't give our money away. Even if Bonham's not here, don't give our money away. That is my opinion. And I have that right to that opinion. And I've heard that from other folks in government as well. It is also my opinion that the idea that the Port of Cascade Locks is choosing not to work with Mark Johnson doesn't diminish anything he's done in the past. And it may be that he was great in other legislatures. And there are other folks elected to Salem now, other folks working for ODOT that might be more open with a different lobbyist. And I'm not, because if I agree that one might be better, doesn't mean I'm putting the other one down. I'm just saying, I think it might be time to move on, and that might be a great thing. It is my understanding, I'm not sure, Administrator Bennett, if the port's lobbyist put in a bid?
I'm aware they haven't secured any lobbyists.
Oh, okay. Okay,
Yeah.
but I know that they are choosing to move on as well. And in doing so is not always saying that the former person is wrong or didn't do some good things. It's just saying that it's a different time now. And it might be, we might benefit from somebody who's working in legislature every day as a lobbyist.
I'm really concerned when I am accused of spreading rumor mongering. And when I have actual case number from the Oregon Governor or Ethics Commission, I don't care what it was in regards to. I am stating a fact that Mr. Johnson was investigated by the Oregon Oregon Government Ethics Commission. That is a fact. Please tell me how that's rumor mongering. Secondly, he was fired and by a unanimous vote by the Oregon Business and Industries lobbying group, in which he was the first CEO and lasted barely 6 months for making a racial remark. This is something that I cannot tolerate. I have credible sources, and please, I am stating fact, not rumor mongering.
Councilmember Happy.
I just wanted to give some clarification on, Councilmember Baker's comment about would we be less likely to get support from the Oregon legislature in 2025 if we already have a loan in place that's, I mean, by then, where is the project? It's by 2025, we're done at that.
We're done.
Correct? Yeah.
Yes.
So we now have a loan of $1 million. Would we be less likely to be able to secure funding from the legislature to pay back that loan at that point?
I honestly can't tell you. I don't know. I know in terms of grant funding, yes, it'd be almost impossible. But legislature, I don't know. I don't know.
I don't know either. I mean,
Yes.
I think that's a reasonable, that's a concern. Yeah, and I think that what we don't want to be stuck holding the bag. You know, we don't want to be stuck with this $1 million loan.
Right.
But ultimately, if we're gonna be more effective at lobbying to get the allocation of funds in 2025, I believe that's the right path to take. But I don't know if we have the answer to that question.
So I do know the court has secured a new lobbyist. They do have that. My concern with Mr. Johnson is with all the roundhouse. And it was repeatedly asked for, you know, how are their financials? They're great, great. And I didn't, even then, I mean, it was great, one comment, but I was dismissed. I didn't get answers, and then only after news articles came out, lots of investigation by others that found out that the individual that Mr. Johnson was advocating for, he owes millions to people. And I just simply, I cannot put my faith in someone like that. I just cannot. I question them. I question them. I'm not discounting all the loans or the grants that he did receive for Cascade Locks. I think that's wonderful. But in my personal experience, I question ethics. Ethics are a big thing. I want to remind everybody, council, public, everybody, it's okay to have your opinion. It's okay. Everyone's gonna be different. And I just see in this day and age, civility has gone out the window. For some reason, if somebody says something and they don't like it, they're gonna beat you up on something else or how you said it. But I just really want everyone to be respectful of how each one of you feel. And without name calling, without doing that. And it's just, I really, you know, watch the TED Talk on civility. I can't, it's an amazing thing, but as far as, and there's a motion on, for Mr. Johnson, it's been seconded, we're in discussion, but I just want to really encourage everybody to, it's okay to have an opinion.
Councilor Crompton has his hand up.
Okay, great. Council Compton? You're muted.
I have a question for Emmerling Baker first before I say my part. Do you know what political affiliation Tess Milo is?
I actually don't. I could look at
Okay.
her documents, but I know, she mentioned she would have been here tonight and she is at a political meeting, fundraiser meeting. I do know that I liked when I said I need to know so I can share with council what are the travel expenses. She said absolutely none. I'm in same every day during the session and I liked that. So.
Okay. My viewpoint on this is that we need a lobbyist sooner rather than later, just to at least try, because if we wait too long, we might be left holding the bag, and that's a big unknown. I mean, this whole thing is an unknown. Whether we get a lobbyist now and nothing comes from it, and we have to do it again later, or we don't do anything now and we do it later and we spend more money and the answer is still the same and we don't have anything. But I feel like there's a better chance of either Mark Johnson or Tess Milo, that one of them will get us closer to where our goal is. And I know that Mark Johnson has been in the past more friendly with the Republican lawmakers, which are in the minority right now. So I'm not sure how effective he could be, but he's also been there as a lobbyist for quite some time. So he has some long-lasting relationships, I'm sure, on both sides of the aisle. I don't know enough about Tess to give a good opinion about her, other than what she's written. And that's all I have to say.
Another question to council, has anybody checked any of their references other than Councilmember Baker? So here's kind of the dilemma, we're in a time crunch, but this is a lot of money. without checking references. It sounds like that one council member who did check first references. Yeah, you're in
I feel like it's coming down to a consensus between the two cheaper options, Mark Johnson or Emilio. And if one of those reference checks have been completed, and I'm sure we all have some sort of an opinion on Mr. Johnson. I don't know. I feel like we need to make this decision tonight, and if it's down between those two. I don't know why, I guess,
make a decision
I
tonight.
think we can.
I chose not to call on the references for the firm that was $7,000 a month. And now 15, because I just thought we have some viable options that are less, and I wanted to check those out. And because of people I know that have been working with Salem for over 20 years, recommended Tess, I was very excited about that, because I shared other lobbyist names for proposals with Administrator Bennett, and apparently they didn't propose some of them. So that were recommended, and this one was not one until I saw it, and that's why I wanted to follow up. So, and I was glad to get a reference that wasn't listed, because that's, of course, you're gonna list people that will say great things about you, and I didn't tell one of those.
Question for Mr. Ryan. Financially, this wasn't budgeted. Can you speak to that?
My thought is come out of the miscellaneous contract services for the electric department, where we have $300,000 budgeted, we've spent about 50,000 so far.
Is that fund, if we have those funds budgeted for what purpose?
Mainly for emergency flow repairs.
If we're going in-
As we're going, yes, as we're going in winter, but it's kind of also a catch-all, unfortunately. But that's the main purpose of it, is for crews.
And how much was the one storm, like 4 days? Wasn't it, it was quite a
The
bit.
biggest bill we got last year was about $70,000.
Okay. Councilmember Miller?
Since you brought up Roundhouse, Roundhouse had $10 million in pocket from PACE. They did have financing available. Mr. King was going to step down his head and have somebody else pick it up to further push that contract. And as far as getting false information, I remember that October meeting where you said that Roundhouse was gonna put heated water into Herman Creek, which was completely false. So there was a lot of inaccurate information flowing both ways. So, but they did have $10 million, and it's right here. The proof of it.
Councilmember Happy?
I just want to say, one of the comments that was made recently is that we're under a time crunch, and I guess I just use that fact. I don't know that that necessarily is, the case. CFM advocates, when I did my researches to the people that provided proposals, seems like a very, experienced, long-standing lobbyist, with both the state and federal government. At no point in the proposal do they have any concerns about us seeking these funding in 2025, after the project's complete. And I think that for somebody that's trying to get out of business, if that was a concern, they'd be pushing to get this done now. So I am opposed to hearing any lobbyists this time, especially with the fact that we're getting ready to go on the front season. I will say that whether it's $10,000 or $45,000 or $1 million, these are all like, they're all really close, and we need to, get the person that's gonna be able to get the best result for it. And I think timing is really important, and any money we spend on that right now is just gonna be wasted money, because I don't think it's gonna get us anywhere.
Councilmember Baker?
I just want to point out that a couple of these folks said that they should get going right away, including Mark Johnson, and that Tess Milo used to work for CFM Advocates. In fact, when I called the reference with Ethan Nelson, Government Affairs Manager of the City of Eugene, he said she's very high ethics and very, he would hire her back as their lobbyist if she was still with CFM, but they have a contract with CFM. And so as far as her experience with CFM Advocates from 2013 to 2021, and then she chose in 2022 to go out on her own. And she has a strong track record of delivering to her clients policy and funding requests, and developed many positive relationships in the Capitol building, including with the new legislators that make up over 1/3 of the House. So she attended Willamette University, and I'm not sure of her political affiliation, but she is, I believe, in a fundraiser for a Democratic fundraiser tonight. Councilmember Happy?
I appreciate all the comments about, the other lobbyists, but right now we have a motion that's and second about, Mr. Johnson. We already have a motion for the other lobbyists that wasn't seconded. I propose that we move on. That's my suggestion.
So, Mr. Councilmember Miller, in regards to your statement, that I cannot dispute that, I mean, it's factual that Mr. King owes millions. He took a little under 1 million from a gal up in Hood River from a business that you can't dispute. So I just, for that reason, I can't, for myself, I would not be supportive of Mr. Johnson.
I will note, when I got all these quotes, none of them were really that excited to give me a quote for just 2.5 months or 3 months of work. So to your point, if this is more kind of a long-term next year, if we sign multi-year agreements, the monthly rates may be more. If this is a direction council wants to go, I'll have to work it into the budget for next year. So there is that.
And that's a good point. I mean, with hiring a lobbyist, they could help us more, just one project. They could help us on a much larger scope. You know, even the trains, and we'll go down that rabbit hole later. But right now, there's been a motion, there's been a second, we've had discussion. Is there any other discussion? Okay, roll call vote.
Councilmember Crompton,
Aye.
Emerald Baker,
No.
Farrell. Aye. Happy,
No.
Keller,
No.
Miller,
Aye.
Marithel.
No. That does not pass.
Yeah, that's seven.
Okay.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Ask a question. Mr. Happy, I really validate what you're saying, like, let's get through winter season, let's budget for this. And then what I'm interpreting is maybe we do a year contract, or we do some sort of a contract. And holistically, maybe look at more than one project. And my concern, is if we can't get grants to pay this back. And we heard from Mr. Miller saying a bunch of the money that Mr. Johnson got was in grant funding. Like, can we be certain that we can get this money back? I guess that's my concern.
Now that we've been able to discuss various candidates, may I make a motion again on a similar person? The same.
Yeah, we'll make a motion anytime.
Make a motion.
I move that, let me look at the wording that you had for us. I can't.
Yeah.
Thank you. I motion to approve the quote from Tess Melio in the amount of $3,000 a month to provide lobbying services during the 2024 legislative session.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. There's been a motion and it's been seconded and discussion.
Who was the first one that you
Emilio.
can't do them both, you didn't get a second, you
But
can't do it again.
I'm not sure that that's true. Is there a document that says I cannot? We voted more than once on many things in this council. Garbage. And,
But your question, I guess, is can you raise the same motion when it wasn't seconded the first time?
Yeah, in the same meeting.
I didn't think that you could. I thought that once
I didn't
this
ever-
motion was raised.
I've
and not
never
seconded.
read any thing that says
I'm
it's
not
not
sure, they want to, these things every meeting,
All right,
Robert's rules, here we go.
yeah.
that's all right. It's okay. Walk it out.
The first one dropped, we had debate, and then the second one.
Marilyn, do you have any? comment on it?
You know, it's not in that little book I have.
Yeah, it doesn't say it in our city recorder council rules.
I remember something about when you make a motion and a second, and then you have discussion, and the motion and the second opens it up for discussion, and so having it done
Additional
again,
discussion.
yeah, I don't think.
Don't policy anything in there, but council member squeezing out this.
Because this is a second motion, a different
Yeah.
motion.
Yeah, 6D, motions die if they do not receive a second. Motions for nominations, withdrawal of the motion, agenda order, roll call votes and point of order do not require a second. Does not say, I'm not saying any language about the same motion coming up later in the meeting.
Did you say it's not the same motion though?
It is.
It is the same, and yet it's a different time.
And I don't think we never had a vote on the motion, right?
No,
Never
because it didn't get a
Right.
second at that time,
Right.
but
It's, there's withdrawal, a motion may be withdrawn by the mover anytime prior to announcing the results of the vote without consent of the council. But there was no vote, so there's nothing to withdraw. Reconsideration is when a question has been decided, any council member who voted the majority may move for reconsideration, but again, there's no votes, there's nothing to reconsider.
well,
So,
yeah, so it's leaning more toward we can reconsider this.
There isn't anything that states that you cannot, correct?
There is nothing that states you cannot.
Yeah, so again, it'd be your guys interpreting your own rules. So,
if the motion doesn't get a second, there was no motion. Is that right?
No, there's a motion, there's a second.
Yeah.
A
But
motion,
there was no
motion.
discussion after it.
Right.
I think that's, then we went on to Mark Johnson, got a second, there was discussion, voted and it didn't pass. So then she brought it.
Can you discuss without a second?
no,
I think you need a
No.
second to discuss, and you got a second,
But if we have the option of reconsideration,
That's only after a vote's been completed though.
it sounds to me without clear opposition toward this raising a similar motion twice, especially if we get a second, then it would lean toward this is a reconsideration even without a vote. I don't see anything wrong with re-motioning after discussion.
Councilmember Keller.
I'm really cautious about setting precedent, but I feel like we could go to a vote and we would be fine. I think we've all made our choice. I'm scared about setting precedent.
I don't, there isn't anything printed that it can't.
Nothing I read in our council procedures suggests that you
I
can't.
think that's something to be decided by the attorney.
So Councilmember Miller, are you proposing? What are you proposing?
Well, I wouldn't want to take and redo this motion and then find out later that what was done was illegal, because you've had the same motion twice in the meeting, it died once from lack of second. And then you go forward and make a contract with somebody, then to find out that the whole thing's completely illegal.
So what are you asking?
If you're gonna go with that person with the test thing, then I think you need to contact the city attorney first.
Councilmember Happy?
So, take this with a grain of salt, it's Wikipedia here, but after a motion is proposed, the motion requires a second and none is immediately offered. The chair of the body will usually ask, is there a second? If no second is obtained within a few moments of proposing the motion, then the motion is not considered by the assembly and is treated as though it was never raised. So,
So the motion was never raised.
if it doesn't receive a second, there wasn't a motion.
Councilor Cummings.
Councilmember Compton?
I was just about to say that what Happy said. From my understanding of Robert's rules, it's as if the motion was never made, or it doesn't matter that the motion was made because there was no voting done on it. It was just proposed and then moved on. So you can propose it again, especially since there's no roll call vote against it. It should be pretty clear to go.
When do we want to sleep, we get started working on this stuff? But when does the legislative session begin?
March 8th-ish, somewhere there. That's our February, yeah, February.
So what's the rationale for why we need to have this start tomorrow?
The more we get it in front of the legislators, the more likely it's gonna pass. I mean, if we just go the day legislation starts asking for money, I mean, there's no relationship built. It's all about building the relationship and explaining why.
I guess I'm just wondering how much is really gonna happen between now and New Year's, and if,
January 8th would be the first.
I understand, and how much is really gonna happen between now and January 8th. And especially as contentious as it is, I just perceive that there is gonna be more repercussions and problems.
Councilmember Baker?
I am finding from IBABs, if a motion is one way is to renew the motion if it's defeated, or a member can reintroduce. If a motion is not seconded, it may be reintroduced. I can send the link to that. If no one seconds a motion, it can be reintroduced at another time.
So here's the dilemma in what we've got in here. There isn't any clear rules of what we're talking about. Questions are, what's the hurry now if we didn't wait, did some more investigating, ask the attorney, make sure that council is taking an appropriate vote. Our next meeting is January 8th. I understand relationships, you want to get going on those, but we're a few days out from Christmas. I know a lot of people take off for Christmas. So one option would be to wait till January 8th. That would be one option. It's up to council what you would like to do. So at this point, there's been a motion, it's been seconded, but council was questioning if that motion was even possible.
And as we've seen and heard, emotion is over when emotion is over. We can sit here and look things up, but I feel like, our judgment on this could be contested by other people that may dispute, our research. We wait till January 8th in our next council meeting, at that point, it's a whole other vote, it's a whole other meeting, at that point, it's not the same motion of raised at the same meeting. We can get some clarification about this, so we aren't setting bad precedent and know what we should do if this happens in the future. I see no reason to put ourselves in a position where we could have our decision again, questioned and just debated for eternity. I think it's more harm than good by moving forward with this now.
So, that leaves, there's still a motion, there's still a second. We've had discussion, so either it's withdraw the motion,
I would draw at this time if this body wants to research what I think is very evident in lack of objecting to it, and it makes complete sense to me, because nobody would ever make a motion if they had a lot of information that the council didn't know yet, because we can't discuss it until the second. So we wait until one fails before we would suggest. That doesn't make sense. It does make sense that if no one seconded because they didn't have the information, according to the person making the motion, then it gets reintroduced. But if this council wants our attorney to approve that, then
so are you withdrawing the motion?
I'm currently withdrawing it.
Okay,
Rather
so the
than-
motion has been withdrawn. So is it consensus of council to have this back on January 8th? For further discussion on,
I'm wondering if Keller, Councilman Keller, being so keen on legislature, do you know what time the session begins? When does it begin?
What time of the
I
day?
mean, when does new session begin?
I believe Jordan said February 8th.
February 8th, okay. So we might have a bit of time.
to shorten up the time.
All I know is that when Mr. Helfrich came to my class to speak to my students, he discussed that they're already in discussions about this session coming up. And that was weeks ago.
It starts February 5th and ends March 10th, so shorter than I thought, but as you said, yeah, they're in session, but there's discussions year round.
One question to Administrator Bennett. When is it we can call our attorney? I mean, during a short recess tonight, or would it be also possible to put an action item on our agenda for Wednesday or not?
No, we cannot do it Wednesday.
Okay,
I can give them a call now. Actually, I have a cell phone number.
because it sounds like that's what we're waiting for. But I'd be willing to wait till January if that's what this body wants. I just hate missing out on those informal meetings where folks think that they can get things done, but,
So it sounds like the motion has been,
right.
right? Any other discussion?
I want to clarify, it's consensus of council to reach out to the city attorney to clarify the process for a re-motion after it did not receive the second later in the meeting. Okay.
And not specifically about this issue, just in
Yeah,
general.
yeah,
for guidance
yeah.
for-
Something we can add to it. Definitely, is that consensus of council?
Do we need to take a roll call vote, Marilyn?
I don't think so.
No, I just.
Okay. All right. So the next, reports and presentations, committee reports,
No committee reports tonight?
wastewater update, final report.
Okay, so substantial completion of the wastewater treatment plant upgrade has been done. There's a few more punch list items they're doing, a few parts that are on back order they're waiting for. I asked our general contractor and lead engineers, JW Fowler and Anderson Perry, to put together a final report to this council. In your packet is that memo. It's quite lengthy, so you'll have a chance to read it, but Troy Baker, who is way up on the org chart for Anderson Perry, is here tonight virtually. to give a quick presentation, answer any questions you may have on this report for the upgrade to our plant. So, Troy, thank you for being here tonight.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for having me. Those of you who don't know me, I'm Troy Baker with Anderson Perry and Associates. We've been working with the city of Cascade Locks for the past about 10 years on this project. Started back in 2013, spawned by a mutual agreement order with the Oregon Department of Environmental Quality, which is an agreement that the city entered into with the department, agreeing that they couldn't comply with the conditions of their waste discharge permit to continue to discharge the treated effluent in the Columbia River. So you entered into that agreement, which then put in motion a bunch of stipulations that the city had to meet. One of those was to do planning to determine what necessary improvements the city needed to do to bring the facility on into compliance. And so Anderson Perry completed 2 studies in that regard to identify, look at historical data, identify necessary improvements that needed to be done. And then based on that study, the city went ahead and pursued funding to complete the improvements. The city pursued funding from the USDA Rural Development, the Oregon Business Development Department, their wastewater financing program, the Oregon DEQ, their Clean Water State Revolving Loan Fund, and also a community development block grant to pay for the improvements. The total budgeted amount of the project was $8.1 million, of which $4.1 million of that was grant dollars. So the city received nearly a little over 50% of the project paid through grants. $2.5 million of that was through the community development block grant program. $550,000 was through the Oregon Business Development Department, and about $1 million of it was through USDA Rural Development. The rest of it was paid by funds obligated by the city of about $207,000, and there's about $3.8 million on lowest interest loans. So the project, once we completed the design phase, then the bid opening was done on December 13th of 2021, and then the city issued a notice of award to the general contractor that completed the project on January 26, 2022. And then there's a notice to proceed on March 16, 2022. And initially the project had a 365-day completion time frame to get substantially complete, but because of COVID and other things that delayed it, the contractor had some issues with getting materials, a lot of delays related to basically not being able to get their parts and pieces. As you all know, that we kind of had issues with that here since COVID. So that did delay the project some. So we extended the deadline to October 27th of 2028, extended the mutual agreement order deadline. As a result, the DEQ worked with the city to do that. We met that deadline. And as Jordan indicated, we're now substantially complete. The project is currently on, the plant is online and functioning well. But the basic improvements that we did do was we did quite a lot of collection system work to try to target some removal of infiltration and inflow and to address structural deficiencies that were identified during the facility planning process through a TV monitoring program that we went into the sewer lines with closed circuit television system, identified those issues in the collection system, developed a prioritization of those improvements, what needed to be done. And then that was done as part of the improvements project. So some manholes, some pipelining, repairs to the sewer line, some connection improvements. So hopefully through those improvements, we've helped remove some of your extraneous flows that were coming into the system. And I believe we have. So that'll benefit you on increasing your overall capacity. And then obviously helping you maintain your system and the longevity of it should be increased. And then I did 2 pump station improvements. There's 1 pump station down at the marina that collects most of the wastewater in town. That pump station was improved with new pumps, new piping, new controls, basically walking away with pretty much a brand new station there. And then the same thing, there's a pump station that serves the industrial park on Industrial Way is what it's called. And we did the same thing with that station. So the city now has 2 completely new pump stations. The exception of the wet wall structure, which we rehabbed. So essentially it's new, both of them. We installed a grit removal system at the wastewater treatment plant to remove that material coming into the headworks of the plant that won't break down in the biological treatment system. So the sand and coffee grounds and other inert materials that aren't biologically biodegradable. So we remove those. And it's amazing how much material the city's actually getting out. It's pretty significant. So that system is working well. And we did improvements to the biological treatment system, the secondary treatment system part of it, which is called the sequencing batch reactors. And we basically took all of the old equipment out of those and replaced it with new, more efficient aeration systems and mixing systems and decant systems. And that is working well too. And then we replaced the old ultraviolet light disinfection system with a new system. That old system was just reaching the end of its life, being almost a little over 20 years old. And we did improvements to the aerobic digestion system, pumps and other things, rehab the concrete and miscellaneous improvements on that to help manage your solids. And then there's a small plant lift station that collects the drainage out of the buildings and whatnot. We improved that, and then we improved the supervisory control and data acquisition system, which is basically your monitoring system that will notify an operator remotely if there's an issue, an alarm condition, that then they can react appropriately to rectify a situation that may come up. As far as the budget, we are looking like we're probably going to be slightly under. So we came in with looking very, very good on the budget, and the city got everything done that was identified that needed to be done. So I think it was really successful. And you've now got a plant that should function well for the next 20 years. So any questions for me?
And we're under budget.
That's always a good thing.
Don't get to hear that much, so, thank you.
Councilmember Farrell.
I had a question as far as maintenance. You said it'd be good for like the next 20 years, but is there things like the grit removal that we should be budgeting into our annual budget, like to look at for having to do that in 5 years from now? Are there things like that that you can enlighten Jordan on?
Yeah, there's what we refer to as short-lived assets. And what those are is things like pumps and mechanical equipment that does need to be replaced or maintained that does not last 20 years. You know, you have certain things that'll last maybe 5 and some that'll last 10, 15, you know, and some things that aren't real mechanical might last 20, you know. So yes, absolutely. Those things have to be budgeted annually as a replacement fund to replace pumps, you know, other things that may need to be replaced through time.
Thank you.
Hi, thank you for your detailed report and.
You're welcome.
And from what Councilmember Farrell shared, you can share a list with Administrator Bennett on things he might need to replace annually, or can you provide that?
Yeah, that list has already been put together.
Perfect.
We do have that. That's a requirement of the USDA rural development. Those short-lived assets have to be identified. And then an estimate of what that will cost through time.
Thank you. And then maybe this is not part of your scope, but hearing about the coffee grounds, do you have recommendations that we might share with our utility users as to what will save our system? Like, please, like lists of things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't dump them in the sink.
But
Put them in the garbage.
a list for folks.
Things like grease. There's lots of educational things that, you know, can be done. Like don't dump your grease down the drain. I mean, it's just practical stuff, but you know, don't put your coffee grounds in the sink and, you know, those kind of things. Absolutely. Yeah. Sand and that kind of thing that comes through manholes and, you know, there are other sources of it. So those are things that really can't be controlled, so to speak. Not that you can control people from dumping coffee grounds down the sink, but you can certainly educate them.
Right. Or do you have an organization that we might find that list that you think is great? I do think sometimes sharing with our users that just don't think about it.
Yeah, the Water Environment Federation is one. The Pacific Northwest Clean Water Association, PNCWA, has lots of educational, even probably the Oregon Water Utilities Association, AWWA, American Water Works Association. There's lots of them. Yeah.
Thank you.
Should be helpful to have a list of best practices. Just
Yeah.
as a reminder.
I think so.
Yeah, they have those things, you know, best practices, what to do and what not to do.
Mhm.
Protect our $8 million investment.
Yeah. And the other thing is don't dump the flushable wipes because they're not flushable. That's amazing how much trouble that the wastewater utilities are having with those things now. They're a huge problem because they don't break down and they end up at big rags in your pumps.
During the pandemic, we had experience with that, so.
Yeah.
Comments? Questions? All right, Victoria, thank you so much.
No, you're welcome. Thank you for allowing us to be a part of it. I appreciate it. It went great.
Thank you very much. And thank you for being patient.
Oh, no problem. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. City Administrator Bennett report.
Okay, the DLC grant for the downtown revitalization plan was awarded to us, $45,000 with a $5,000 match from the tourism fund. I'm working with DLC staff to finalize the grant contract paperwork, with the scope of the work being, the development of, essentially reviewing our development code and doing a full audit of it. Parking assessment, because parking is an issue downtown, as well as, wayfinding signage and action steps to move forward, so. That is moving forward, probably not until after the holidays, thing annually finalizes. Updates, for the CDC development, or the Community Development Code, the quote was approved by council. Met with John Morgan from the Chinook Institute on the morning of December 6th. He's working on a draft and fact finding to present the planning commission for review on January 11th. A public hearing at the planning commission level is tentatively scheduled for March 14th, and the council level March 25th. Unless there are any unforeseen hiccups, the code will be amended and in effect 30 days after the ordinance is adopted. So April 25th is when it will be in effect, so. Any questions on that process? Okay. Annual review of procedures. I know we just did a lot of this. Council did just perform an update of the council procedures and started the discussion on the finance policies. It is been tradition to review them at the beginning of each year. The last time finance and review was 2019 before our discussion earlier this year. Is council prepared to pick that discussion back up in January? Or would they like to pick a different date to do that?
Question about that. When do we need to have you goals for the budget?
If I can have them by March, that'd be great. So I can start my process.
So we did the financial review in January, that's not gonna hold up your budget, start working on the budget.
No, so yeah, we're meeting, and that's next on my list here. We're meeting Wednesday to talk about the strategic plan with hopes that it's kind of a consensus verbal agreement to move forward to officially adopt it on the January 8th meeting. And then once that's done, we can. 11. I keep getting my dates off. That's okay. Once that is adopted on the 11th, then council can set a goal setting session for the year. And then I use that to put the budget together. Yes.
With that further clarification, I'm supportive of that.
Okay. It does sound like January might kind of be a busy month, so just throwing it out there. That's okay. Again, strategic plan meeting Wednesday, the 13th at 6 p.m. here and virtually. To hopefully finalize the strategic plan and move forward. A couple scheduling reminders, second council meeting this month was canceled because it falls on Christmas. Office is closed December 25th for Christmas and January 1st for New Year's. A couple items I have that aren't in the presented packet. There is a bit of a delay in our audit process. Our finance CFO, now CFO controller is having issues getting what's in our software to balance what's on the last audit. So we're trying to make sure everything matches, so there's a bit of a delay. As soon as I have more information, I'll let you know, but there's a delay. And then the wastewater collection system, I mentioned this last meeting before, for DEQ, we're supposed to have somebody with level 2 certification. Sheldon is working on obtaining his certification, with hopefully being done by end of June, but we have hired Sean Anderson, the wastewater superintendent for the city of Troutdale, as a temporary stopgap. So he'll be kind of our sign-off person going forward.
Jordan?
Yeah.
And do we know if we're getting fined in reference to that yet?
Yeah. We do not.
You do not know?
We do not. Oh, do not know.
Not getting fined or
No, no, I do not know. DEQ has not provided any more information. Yep. And then I plan to be off the week of Christmas, hanging out with the kiddos, but I will be here locally and not going anywhere, so I can stop in and eat. That's all I got.
And back on the annual review of procedures, what does this involve actually? I mean, is it just us as a city council talking with your staff bringing recommendations?
Correct, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
See, I totally didn't read it that way at all. I read it as us going through the council
Well,
procedures
that's what I need.
together to make sure that we're all on the same page with what they mean, not necessarily rewriting them, but just clarification to make sure that we are all understanding them. That's how I understood it, was it was an annual review to make sure that we were all on the same page with the council
I
procedures.
mean, we can do that as well, so that, it's your guys' meeting.
To go through it and bring recommendations.
Correct, yeah, and that's what it's, for the council procedures, but more of the finance policy is what we do. For some recommendations, for at least operation wise.
Traditionally, in the beginning of the year, it's council procedures, make sure everybody's on the same page, if there's any recommendations for changes. So January is gonna be busy. Okay. That it?
That's all I got.
That's all you got?
All right. Councilmember Compton, you're on Zoom. Let's have you go first.
I want to thank everybody for being here and giving their comments. It's great to hear that we have a under budget and relatively on time wastewater plant. You know, COVID makes things interesting. And that's all I got, really.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Happy.
Well, I just wanted to apologize to Councilmember Evan Baker. I felt like I shut her down and kind of questioned why we were having a debate about something that wasn't, you know, we're voting on Mark Johnson, but we're talking about this other motion, and that may purely be my ignorance, not understanding that we could have a motion come back up later. So I'm glad that we had the conversation. It was I think, a productive one. And everybody's voices were heard, and not everybody agrees, but I think that that's exactly the way these things are supposed to work. And I'm looking forward to get some clarification about the motion discussion, because we haven't run into that before, and I think we have to be careful, as Councilmember Keller brought up, about setting precedent. And I think that not only do we all have to feel good about the decisions we're making, but we have to make sure that the community, they may not agree with it, but I feel like there has to be integrity in that decision. And so I appreciate everybody's willingness to table that discussion until January, so that we can make sure that we are moving forward with integrity. That's really all I got.
All right, Councilmember Miller.
Let's see. I'd like to thank staff for all their hard work. And I will have my first meeting with the SED on the 21st this month. I'm hoping to learn about how we can acquire some extra money for our area and what sort of projects we can look forward to. Also, there's a small cities meeting this month.
I think it's that same day, the 21st.
Huh?
I think it's that same day. the
Oh, yeah,
21st.
it's the 21st.
Yeah,
Okay.
Where is it?
It's in Hood River.
Yeah.
At the fire hall, and it's at 11 o'clock. Then my said meeting's at 4 o'clock, so.
oh, right.
That's a full day.
Well, the Merced meeting this time is Zoom, so no problem. And that's about all I have.
Councilmember Farrell.
I had a resident, wanted me to read something. She didn't want to show it herself. She had written, does our town have a committee that organizes events like the hometown Christmas that Samantha is doing? If not, how hard is it to start one? I really would love to see more events geared to the Cascade Locks residents. I would love to help out when I can. So just a little, put that in our, maybe a committee thing, because I know there's different people that do the Easter egg hunt, Halloween, hometown Christmas. So what she's wanting to know is if we can actually make a committee to do all of them, you know. Anyway, let's see here. I was wondering if the storm drains have actually been cleared out now that we've all gotten flooded.
Do you know if we're in good shape with that before anything
Should
else
have been, yeah.
happens? Okay, well, I didn't see any big puddles, but I just thought I would check.
Yeah, the ones by my house got sucked out.
Good,
They look-
good, because there's lots of leaves out there. Okay.
Okay, Bill, look at that.
Yeah. I wanna thank all of those that came to the hometown Christmas. It was for a last minute thing. It was pretty fantastic. And lastly, and I'll let you have the floor as I walk around to hand out gifts from Kiara.
Aw,
Okay. Very nice. Are you done?
I'm done.
Okay. Councilmember Baker.
well, first of all, thank you, Kiara, for the gift, for everybody that shows up, for the reports, and for the lively debate. I am reminded of an LOC session that possibly other councilors were with me, and the speaker said, remember, when you're seconding the motion, you're not saying you're for it, you're allowing discussion. So I hope that this body will remember that. When you second a motion, you're allowing for discussion. And on that note, that discussion can, while if I'm promoting one person's qualifications, if we're voting on somebody, I think it's highly appropriate if the motion's for somebody else, because I'm pointing out I prefer not, that I prefer somebody else. On that note, and I do respect if this body wants to further follow up with the attorney on, you know, what is the next best precedent. And I want to thank, it is a lot when we have to vote on people we haven't met, so I do appreciate it when folks have been able to make a phone call or learn more, because we can't really talk about it, but we have to learn on our own. So I appreciate that. I wanted to say, I love what the person said to you, and I don't know, when we are doing our annual goal setting with the tourism committee, now that it is mostly a new committee, if we might see if this new committee is interested in meeting some of the elements of their charter of what's written in our documents of events for the city. Not sure if that is something that, and when will we do that goal setting for them or with them? I hope, and we're meant to do that with planning as well. It's part of our documents to do annual goal setting. And obviously with the budget. So it's a lot, but it is not fair to our committees to not hear from us, because part of our documents say they're meant to do things based on what council asked them to do. So we have to ask them to do something. So there's that. I want to say, for the Main Street, I appreciate that this body voted to approve sending a letter of support, and I presume we'll get the final draft to send by January 30th. And then it will be not a city committee anymore. Hopefully, if we get affiliated status, it will become part of a nonprofit group. So I'm going to start marketing for meetings for folks who might be interested. I've been receiving, and I'm speaking on behalf of the city of Cascade Locks now as the Main Street contact for this year that we agreed to. But it will move out away from the city to a nonprofit. So I'm just letting you know where I'm going to help get that done. And I plan to have meetings in January. I'm meeting with the Main Street executive director from Stevenson this week. And there will be a meeting with the Oregon Main Street director in January that I will put notices out. It is my understanding, after talking to Carrie at City Hall, that because it is a nonprofit committee, moving that way, it's just not appropriate to put it in the newsletter. So I'll be doing some other marketing for that. And as the Main Street contract, I filled in the year-end report. Basically, we did well because we had someone from tourism attend the Main Street conference, which they want you to do one of those every 2 years, and that I have attended some Zoom sessions. And so that's great. I want to say that thank you. I really loved having the Special Olympics recognized last month, and it made my heart happy that we recognize the positive happening in our community. And I'm not sure how this body can proceed with, I would love to do that monthly. When I was a part of the city of Milwaukee, there were monthly celebrations of the spirit of Milwaukee or some, I can't remember. And a monthly student of the month that the principal of the high school sent to us to honor and take a picture with the mayor. And of course, it would be great, a Cascade student. Something I hope we'll think about, because this month, we have so many fabulous things in this town. The hometown Christmas with the giving tree. Reagan Fish Market is collecting clothing and things, as well as they gave out turkeys at Thanksgiving. We've had the stern wheeler rescue a dog, and they've done a toy drive. We've had, I see Samantha with the food drive, so many people do so many fabulous things, and we don't bring that to our meeting and have it televised and say, thank you, here's a little thank you. I'm not sure how we choose or people. I just want y'all to think about that I love that so much. It reminded me, I'd love to have that more often. And I love seeing the photograph that was put on the city social media as well. I mentioned about the motion, more goodwill. And as far as the attorney, if we're reaching out to the attorney to ask this, I'm hoping, and I don't know if we have to have a consensus or how this would get decided, that if somebody who is very, has shown quite careful reading skills with our budget committee, has brought up that ordinance 457 and resolution 1487 may not have been clarified. Can we ask that again? Not sure, because we are going to look at having a new ordinance with the food cart code coming up. So making sure that this question of one reading, I don't know if that's appropriate to ask, but I just wanted to put that out there. And then the other attorney question, if we're asking our attorney, this body did vote to strike the word beautification, which is in our documents, proposed by the chair, is it called the chair of the tourism committee last year? That chair has stepped down. There's a new chair. Have we made that legal document change? And is it appropriate to bring it up for a vote again to not remove it? That is my question to the attorney. Or have we legally?
No, we have not.
Okay, because we knew that that would cost money and there's a whole process in order to change that. So will you find out if we can bring that question up again? And then as far as the quiet zone, that is, I love that people are excited about things, and this is where I know we talked about it way early last year that it costs money, a lot of money, because there are then the arms that have to come, studies to be done. That I would love for a committee to be made. If somebody is strongly supporting of this, and again, our documents say that mayor would create a committee and then we would agree to it, but that requires so many people to be gathered. But this body has a lot to do in January with our financial goals, budget goals, committee goals, council procedures, and now our strategic plan that I do want to ask the community, yay, we love that you have a passion, and what can we do to help you move forward with doing some research and things. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, staff. And thank you, Administrator Bennett, for chasing down that giant grant for planning. I'm so excited. And will we talk about that Wednesday or no, next year? More about the grant, and how we use it. Okay.
Next year.
And am I correct in saying that the folks that helped with our strategic plan, University of Oregon, helped with that grant writing, or?
Yes, they have.
Yes, so that's so fabulous. So they basically paid for themselves, which is very exciting. And so when we have good people helping us, and they show that they can pay for themselves, that's great. And I think I said a lot, so thank you.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Keller?
I want to express my sincere gratitude to Mr. Miller for your ability to keep us on check, your ability to bring an opinion that broadens our perspectives, and it goes a long way, and I'm really appreciative of it. Thank you to all of you that are out there that supported the fish food bank. Whatever food drive that you have partaken, I really appreciate it. If you still need one, the high school is still having a food drive through the January 5th. And that's all I have.
All right, okay. Gosh, first always thank you, the city, staff, the lights, I know half went blank and then blinking. If anybody knows me, I'm not a blinking light fan, but they were just half on, half off, so, thank you so much for, staff, city, fixing all those, it looks amazing. When you drive into town, it just looks fabulous, thank you to the lights around the bridge, it just feels like home, it's very, very festive, feels good. Thank you to Troy Baker with Anderson Perry for his updates. I want to thank council. This is a tough position. You know, everyone is very, very different. Everyone has very, very strong different opinions. But I always appreciate when everyone can get together, discuss their opinions, and then come to an agreement, and then always to be supportive of one another as well. It's not easy, and I want to thank each and every one of you because I know all of you care about Cascade Loss very, very much. And then everyone who worked on the Christmas event at the hometown, thank you, council member Farrell, for donating to that. Samantha, I mean, there's a whole laundry list of people that worked really, really hard on that. All the vendors who came, it was really nice. It was a nice uplifting, I mean, the whole day. I started at Ale House and went to them. Thank you to Shelley for having all the vendors there. They were fabulous. Thank you to her. And then went down to Gorges and just, I mean, the whole town felt really good. And kids to run around and see the kids laughing and making cookies and making messes. I loved every bit of it. And it sounds like the vendors were all very supportive as well. So I know that was a very, very time consuming event. So I thank everybody for that. Also, thank you to Thunder Island for hosting the event the last week for the Gorge Canoe Club. The Gorge Canoe Club, they ended up raising $1,300 that night. That doesn't include the beer sales or from Thunder Island, their support of that. But thank you to everyone who turned out for that. The Gorge Canoe Club, they really do a lot for the community, and so I really thank them for that. It's great. Brigham's always, they're just such troopers, are amazing business here in town and family, and for passing out all those turkeys. What did they do, 100? Is that right? I think it's 100. 100? Yeah. Yeah, I think, and just, it's just another sense of community, so I really thank them for that. Let me see, what else did I have? And I just wanted to say, once again, when I did make that comment about going on TED Talks and watching civility, but yeah, in all seriousness, full of TED Talks on civility is really good. I know in this day and age, with social media and everything, it seems like everyone wants to shout on a soapbox and say your opinion, but you know, in reality, I always look at the end of the day, everyone wants a safe town, peaceful town, beautiful town, so everyone can agree on those things. And just to remind everybody, you know, be kind to other individuals, and are you helping sink their ship by drilling holes, or are you supporting them? And it's okay, I want to remind everybody it's okay to have differences of opinion. But I want to wish everyone a very Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, whatever, Happy Holidays, however you celebrate it. So just have a good holiday, and I wish everybody safe travels if you're traveling, and we're gonna be working hard next year. We work hard all year this year, but we're
start off?
I have two quick things that came up while listening to you guys.
Sure.
Emily Seeley was voted chair of the tourism committee. And she should be reaching out to you before I'm setting up that joint meeting.
Great.
And then the Hood River Fire Departments are doing their
Yes.
week-long light parade, fire truck parade. They'll be in town on the 14th, Thursday the 14th. I think it starts at 6, but it's this Thursday.
They posted a route, right?
They usually do, yeah.
Okay, maybe we may repost the route.
Yeah.
All right, and that's it. So I just really appreciate everyone and thank you.
We wanted to bring everybody cookies, but I don't have any more freezer space, so.
Oh, gosh, Doug ate them all that night. He tasted them all and they all went, so they're all gone. Thank you so much. And at that, that's it. So, is there a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Second?
I second.
All right, discussion. Roll call vote.
Councilmember Thompson,
Aye.
Emily Baker. Aye. Farrell.
Aye.
Happy.
Aye.
Keller.
Aye.
Miller.
Aye, because I want this year over.
Aye. Passes. We're funded.
See y'all Wednesday.
Yeah.